This is session 4 in our course on emotional intelligence, enhancing emotional awareness of others. Our third emotional intelligence skill or competency is the emotional awareness of others. This particular skill is that of perceiving and understanding others' emotions, and it involves being able to recognize the feelings of other folks, understand those feelings, and demonstrate to them that you understand their feelings. In this session, we're going to explore some techniques that will help you in your abilities to recognize, understand, and demonstrate that understanding of those feelings and how that works and impacts your day-to-day business operations. When we look at all of the EI skills or emotional intelligence skills, one of the questions we always ask is, well, why should a small entrepreneur want to increase their competency in a particular EI skill? So here, why should a small entrepreneur become more emotionally aware of others? Well, being proficient in this skill will help you build higher quality working relationships with others, particularly clients, customers, or colleagues. It'll help you understand what motivates other folks' behaviors, performances, and the decisions that they make in their interactions with you. And it will also aid you in effectively and positively influencing those with whom you interact. Now, research tells us that we spend more time listening during our waking hours than in any other activity. In our businesses, often about 70% of our time is spent in some form of communication, and about 45% of our time is spent listening to other people. So demonstrating an understanding of others' emotions contributes to, first of all, establishing an initial connection with a colleague, with a client, with a customer. Once you've established that connection, this will also help you build and maintain rapport with those same folks, with the customers, the clients, and the colleagues. And then understand and deal with conflict as it inevitably arises in any business situation. And finally, deepen interpersonal relationships that you have with others, including those colleagues, clients, and customers. Effective listening is a key, and it involves paying attention to both the content of a communication, in other words, the words, and the process. In other words, why is the person saying particular words at a particular time? And this underpins what others might be saying in their interactions with you in your business. Now, a demonstration of the emotional awareness of other people involves 3 elements, and we're going to look at each of the 3 elements in turn. Our first element is recognizing. Recognizing is effectively noticing the verbal and nonverbal emotional cues of other individuals. For example, we need to hear other folks' emotive words. I feel upset. I am angry. And also the tone of voice that is communicated along with the words. And in recognizing, we also need to understand and recognize facial expressions and body language, both that which is expressed consciously by someone else and sometimes an unconscious display. So that's recognizing, our first element. Our second element is understanding. And understanding is effectively interpreting other people's emotional cues and related data, if you want to call it that we receive. For example, we need to understand or appreciate a meaning or a subtext or a broader context that may underpin another person's emotional outburst or display or just effectiveness. And we need to pick up and recognize that if there's some inconsistencies between what a colleague, a customer, a client is saying in our business or expressing to us and what they are really communicating, perhaps via a facial expression, a body language, or some other type of behavior. So we have our first element of recognizing, our second element of understanding, and our third element is to demonstrate an understanding. We need to be able to acknowledge, validate, and clarify the emotions of others. In other words, we need to tell others that we've heard their content in their dialogue. In other words, sort of a feeling of basic empathy. We need to be able to tell others that we've heard and understand the process, that is, the broader context for their verbalized or displayed emotions. In other words, we need to understand the words and why the person may be saying those particular words. These three elements, each of them, is underpinned by active listening. Active listening is kind of really a life skill. It involves you, in your capacity as the listener, being able to capture, understand, and clarify emotional message that others are providing to you. And active listening involves listening to both, again, the content and the process that others are providing you during the times that they interact with you or even perhaps around you. And according to the GENOS model that we utilize here at the Solopreneur Mastermind Group through our licensing agreement, your listening occurs on three levels. The three levels of active listening and examples are what we're going to cover here next. Our first level of listening is entitled attending. What does attending mean? Well, it basically means that as you're listening, you have a posture that shows you're involved with the other person. You use body movements that are appropriate for the situation. You maintain eye contact as appropriate with the individual to whom you're listening. You're in a non-distracted setting or environment where the communication can occur less hindered. And you've provided the opportunity for the other to be able to talk to you and with you. And there's an acronym that can be used for understanding the level of listening of attending, and that's SOLER, S-O-L-E-R. Sit squarely in an open posture, lean forward, make eye contact, and have a relaxed demeanor. So our first level of listening is attending. Our second level of listening is following. And what this essentially does is a responding to the communication of the other by asking open-ended questions. Oh, how's things going? What's happening now? Use encouraging words that inspire the person to continue the communication. Oh, really? Oh, what happened next? Go on. Ask questions that directly relate to a person's emotions. Well, what was on your mind? What were you feeling? How did that make you feel at that point in time? And a key one that's sometimes neglected, and that is attentive silence. Show that you're listening, but allow the quiet so that the other person can express themselves and explore the emotions they are feeling. So our first level of listening is attending. Our second is following. Our third is reflecting. And when you're reflecting, you're basically saying, I think you feel this because of this. Is this correct? You're sort of paraphrasing or reflecting feelings to others. Oh, was that exciting for you? Did that make you feel bad? You're reflecting meaning. In other words, linking the feelings to the content and the context of a situation. And sometimes even you will summarize the interaction as you listen to someone. You'll sort of reiterate back to them what your understanding is of the communication that they just imparted upon you. Now, as with emotional self-awareness, our other session we looked at, values drive emotional experiences and intensify or moderate the intensity of those experiences for others. So understanding the values of your colleagues or your clients or your customers will help you gain a greater appreciation of the root cause of their emotions and how their emotions, either positively or negatively, will influence decisions and behaviors as they interact with you. Now we're going to have an exercise that will help you identify particular situations with some clients or colleagues that you'd like to better understand and interact with. For each one of them, we're going to have you identify a highly important value they have that you've seen in interactions you've had with them. Some things that you might be looking at are things like leadership, commitment, responsibility, getting paid for what they do, equality, status, trust, honesty, information, diversity, recognition or competence, sensitivity, respect, friendship, security. A lot of these values are things that we typically see in the business or in workplace exchanges. And we're going to have you look at each of these values and understand how it generates positive or negative emotions in particular actions, events, or activities that occur when you interact with these individuals. So this is our brief introduction to enhancing the emotional awareness of others. On to the exercise. It's below here. Again, if you need to, you can always feel free to view this video again if you need further explanation. And again, we always encourage you to do the exercises in our emotional intelligence course. And when you've finished completing them, you can proceed on to session 5, where we will look at another one of our emotional intelligence skills or competencies.